Fury 325 has been one of my most anticipated credits since its opening back in 2015. With its signature 325-foot height mark, this roller coaster boasts impressive stats including a 320-foot drop, 6,602 feet of track while reaching a max speed of 95 miles per hour. Fury still holds the record as the tallest roller coaster in the world that features a traditional lift. It's rare when I ride a new roller coaster and it matches my expectations. Well, in the case for Fury 325, it didn't meet my expectations. It exceeded them. Presentation. As trivial as this category may seem, I still think it's important as the ride presentation sets the atmosphere of the attraction you're about to ride. Fury 325 is an unthemed attraction, which is no surprise because Carowinds doesn't have a hard focus on theming. The ride's bright colors of green and blue really pop off against the park's skyline. It's the first roller coaster you'll notice as you walk up to the park's main gate. Speaking of the main gate, Fury interacts heavily with the entrance. Guests must walk over and under this massive steel coaster before entering Carowinds. One of my favorite parts of the ride is watching guests interact with the coaster as you fly by. People would be waving, jumping, or just standing there with their mouth open as Fury does its thing. What better way to pump up your guests than teasing them with a giant Giga coaster near the park entrance? The only negative I can throw into this category is the backstage area of the park. It's all visible while you climb the lift and also during the final airtime hills at the end of the ride. With the well execution of Fury's interacting with the park gate, it's a shame that the final third of this ride feels as if you're traveling through a maintenance shed. Some might not care about this, but as far as I'm concerned, this is your main attraction. Carowinds has the space, try to tidy up this area of the park and keep the immersion engaged right up to the brake run. Because the interaction with the park gate is very good, Fury 325 will earn a higher than average 8.5 score for presentation. Ride intensity. If you've ridden any other B&M Hyper Giga coaster, you might be inclined to think that Fury has the speed, but won't wow you in intensity. Well, I'm here to say that Fury 325 has a nice bite to it. Starting off with a 325-foot climb into the sky, those who are uneasy with heights will feel their heart racing and their palms sweating as they distance themselves from the ground below. The first drop is epic. At a near vertical descent, this drop delivers the airtime. For those who are riding in the back, this will deliver a nice sustained moment of ejector airtime. Regardless of where you are seated, the drop feels like forever, which is amazing. After descending back to Earth, Fury unleashes its speed as you fly through its next few elements. Starting off with a giant bank turn, riders will know that Fury means business as this coaster whips you in and out of every turn. After weaving back and forth through snappy S-bend maneuvers, Fury reaches the midpoint of the ride, a giant treble clef element. If you are looking at this element from the other pathway that leads to the park entrance, you can really see how the track makes the shape of a treble clef. This part of the ride was the most surprising. The elements deliver solid laterals and ends with a nice dose of airtime. Fury performs another high-speed turn before coming to its first airtime hill of the ride. Now, you might be disappointed that the airtime hill is trimmed, and you will feel the trims, but thankfully, riders will still get some good airtime out of this moment, and those in the back will be ejected out of their seats. The giant elevated helix is the weakest part of the ride, but a neat near miss with a support beam keeps you engaged before working your way back into the next airtime hill. Fury ends the ride with 2 airtime hills as it zigzags its way back to the brake run. The ride ends with some gas still left in the tank, which means the pacing for this attraction is really on point. There were 2 moments where I grayed out on the ride, though not during every ride. Occasionally I would gray out at the bottom of the first drop and sometimes during the giant helix. Overall, Fury 325 delivers the intensity. This Giga coaster exceeded my expectations and I'm inclined to give it a perfect 10 rating for ride intensity. Fun factor. It comes at no surprise that Fury 325 is a fun roller coaster. It's rare when a roller coaster fully engages you from the drop till brake, but Fury does it with ease. Not only does this coaster have the solid pacing, but delivers on multiple fronts. Those who love airtime will not be disappointed. I was really surprised how much airtime there is, including moments that you wouldn't think should have airtime. Not only is there a good amount of airtime, but the quality of airtime was better than expected. Near the end of the day, the ride really hauls. Every airtime hill was delivering ejector airtime. The speed is also very impressive. The first half of the ride is like a blur. If you're riding in the front row, your face feels like it's going to be peeled off by the wind pelting you. I love the out-of-control feeling that this coaster portrays. I caught myself holding on more than putting my hands up. In fact, it was a challenge to stick my hands up. There were many moments where I thought the coaster was trying to eject me from the ride. When it comes to the best seat, I usually prefer the back rows on B&M Hypers, but the best seat to enjoy Fury 325 is up front. You may not get that epic moment of airtime on the first drop, but the rest of the ride really delivers. This is actually the same point that I'll make with Orion at Kings Island. The front row seems to be the best place to ride on these Giga B&M coasters. In my opinion, Fury 325 is like the perfect balance of I-305's craziness and Millennium Force's high speeds. This is the best Giga coaster by far and demonstrates why B&M is the master with the Giga coaster concept. Fury earns a perfect 10 score in the fun factor category. Originality. Fury is my fourth Giga coaster, and I didn't think B&M could make this concept feel fresh, but somehow they pulled it off. As I said already, this roller coaster is like the perfection of the Giga coaster model. It takes what was good about the past models and improves it. The layout is very innovative for B&M, a manufacturer that usually keeps it safe by rehashing ideas that they have executed well in the past. Well, Fury 325 breaks the mold with its low to the ground, high-speed, snappy turns. The treble clef is their best turnaround element by far. It takes the weakest part of any Hyper and/or Giga coaster and turns it into one of the highlights of the ride. Right in the same park, we have Intimidator with its turnaround that's only there to turn the coaster back to the station. Well, Fury does it in style. Instead of ending the ride with a couple airtime hills aligned perfectly with the giant lift, Fury zigzags its way under the giant first drop, so you're not only getting good airtime but some fun laterals as well. I haven't ridden Leviathan yet, but judging it by the POV, I think Fury improved on that ride in every way. This coaster earns another 10 score, this time for originality. Ride smoothness. Most of the B&M Hypers and Gigas can experience the B&M rattle at some point during the ride. Unfortunately, Fury 325 isn't immune to this feature. Now, I would say that this ride is pretty glossy smooth. I had a few rides with no rattle, but then a couple rides produced a slight rattle, mostly at the bottom of the first drop. With that said, I can't give a perfect 10 rating, but I will settle with a near perfect 9.5 score in the ride smoothness category. Okay, the final technical score comes to 9.6, which is a near perfect score. I was really hoping to give this coaster a perfect rating, but if I did that, that means that I would have to look past a couple minor imperfections, and again, I do say minor issues. The presentation category may be trivial, but I think it's still important. If you only snag a couple rides on Fury, the ride smoothness might be perfect, but after getting multiple runs, I couldn't overlook the ever so slight rattle. With that said, my personal rating is going to be a 10. It didn't take long for me to develop an obsession of this roller coaster. After my first ride, I knew that Fury was a top 5 coaster, and then getting multiple rides, it has moved up into my top 3. I'm not ready to declare it my favorite coaster, but it's in definite competition with the best. If there is one thing that I've learned from Fury, it's that the B&M Hyper Giga model is my favorite coaster model on the market. The amount of quality airtime that these models deliver is just unlike any other coaster out there. Also, the clamshells are the best thing since the buzzer bar, and I don't think we'll see better ride restraint hit the market. Thank you for watching today's review. What do you think of Fury? Is it the best coaster on the planet? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please click on the like button and hit subscribe. That way you'll continue to get great content brought to you by XscreamThrills.